What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to do like a quick overview. This is kind of touching on a video that I did the other day about Cain Velasquez. The Weasel did a video, basically parroting what everyone else on the internet is saying. Hey, why is Cain Velasquez already sentenced and in jail while the guy who is accused of molesting his 4-year-old son is walking around free, right? And has not had his day in court and is not in jail? And that's a very complicated answer. Okay, it's really difficult, and the burden of proof is much higher and much heavier when it comes to children being the victims of something, because as a person who is a child development specialist, that's a true story, by the way, that's what my college degree is in, it's much tougher to get accurate information out of a child who has no abstract thought, limited cognitive ability, limited language acquisition, all of those things. And so it's going to take a village of people, including Department of Social Services, Child Protective Services, whatever the equivalent of that is in California, I'm not sure, but all of those things, including the daycare directors, law enforcement, all of the above. All of these people are going to have to work collectively together to charge and hopefully convict this man if he is in fact guilty of molesting children. Okay, because if he is guilty and he did molest Cain Velasquez's child, there's a good chance he perhaps molested other children at the daycare, right? They're not going to want to let that slip. So they're going to want to add on other charges and find out, hey, if he did do this to other children, then let's get him with not just one count of child pedophilia or molestation. Let's get him with 2 counts, 3 counts, 4 counts, 10, 12, 15, 40 consecutive counts, however many there is, so that they can prosecute him to the maximum degree. So I actually came back to edit this part in because I looked it up this morning. Obviously I'm no attorney, but in terms of the Cain Velasquez situation, again, the biggest question on people's mind is, why is he already sentenced and locked up while the guy who is accused of molesting his 4-year-old son, which is a horrible crime, by the way, still free and still not had his day in court? And I want to point back to the fact that, if you remember, Cain Velasquez actually pleaded no contest. Okay? Now, if you don't know what no contest means, I'm going to read you the actual definition. A no contest plea is one which the defendant does not admit guilt but accepts punishment as if they had pled guilty. This type of plea is often used when the defendant wants to avoid a lengthy trial or public admission of guilt. Okay? So if you remember, at first, Cain Velasquez, he was being denied bail and all the rest of it. He's a family man. He loves his family. He realized what he had done was a mistake. He wanted to get back to his family as soon as possible, and was probably advised by his attorney. Obviously, even though he pled no contest, he never really denied. As I mentioned previously in the video, he never really denied that he did what he did. People saw him, tons of witnesses, all the rest of it. So, he did what he did. He admitted that he did what he did. But in pleading no contest, he was able to avoid that lengthy trial. Okay, and that means 2 things here. For Cain Velasquez, that's going to mean that the trial gets over, finished, done with as soon as possible. That way he can start serving whatever sentence he might get, or if he didn't get any sentence, whatever the case is. He wanted it all over and done with as soon as possible. He wasn't denying anything, right? He didn't want to do anything to hold up the proceedings. He wanted the proceedings in regards to his case to go as quickly, as briskly as possible, so that he could get back home to his family, right? You can understand that, right? He's a man who loves his family, okay? But everybody is wondering, why is Harry Goularte? Well, Harry Goularte is pleading not guilty. You know, and as I go to talk about in this video, it's very important, especially when you're dealing with children being the victims. They want to make sure that they get the nail in the coffin, the final nail in the coffin, when it comes to prosecuting and potentially trying to convict this man, right? Because if they mess up and they don't dot all of their I's and cross all of their T's, they could end up leaving a man who is guilty of multiple counts of child molestation on the streets, walking free. Okay, so that's another reason that Cain Velasquez trial has wrapped up way more quickly than has the trial of Harry Goularte. Okay, so this whole tired narrative that social media and everybody is painting, that California doesn't mind child molesters, but, you know, they really have it in for someone who goes and tries to take vengeance on behalf of their young, innocent 4-year-old son who's been molested, right? I mean, that's just ridiculous. And I'm tired of seeing it. I'm tired of hearing people talk about that, right? And people are painting this narrative like, oh, it's taking so long because this guy's somehow getting by with it and they don't mind child molesters. They're just mad at Cain for what he did, and they're mad because he's a UFC fighter. I mean, I've heard all of it. I'm just like, people are such idiots, man. Like, think about what you're saying. Think about what you're saying, you know? So there are legal reasons as to why these trials are moving at the speed that they are, and why they have moved at the speed that they are. Okay, so let go of the narratives. All it does is throw more hate, more division into the world, because I'm pretty sure that the reason this is taking so long has nothing to do with the fact that California is okay with pedos. Come on, man. But I had a guy comment on my video the other day. He was like, basically like, you know, fair enough, but I don't think you did a good job of explaining, you know, why Cain did what he did, or what happened when Cain did what he did. Like, by example, how he found out about the allegations. You know, like, who told him, basically. And I thought to myself, like, well, first off, I've looked that up numerous times, and I really can't find the answer to that. So, first, I will say this. If you know the answer to that, drop it down in the comments, okay? Secondly, that's really irrelevant as far as what Cain Velasquez did and Cain's sentencing, okay? Because what my video was discussing is that, hey, calm down, people. This guy is not getting off scotch-free. The fact that Cain Velasquez is already locked up and this guy has not seen his day in court yet doesn't mean that they're letting this guy get away with child molestation. It just takes longer for the whole judicial process, and also when it involves children as victims, and possibly multiple children. You know, this is something that is going to take a lot of professionals working together on for, you know, an extended period of time. Obviously, I mean, this has been ongoing for several years now, and people are like, why has this guy not gone to court yet? Well, there's a lot of layers to it. Cain Velasquez pled no contest, but that's just a formality. He never denied what he did, you know? I mean, he pretty much went, chased him down, shot at the truck, basically got out of the car and held his hands up. I did it. Take me to jail. He never denied it. You know, it was pretty much open and shut case. He got upset because Harry Goularte was released on bail. The Velasquez family, including Cain, thought that he should have still been jailed. Understandably so. I have 2 sons. I would do anything to protect my sons. So anyone with children can absolutely put themselves in Cain Velasquez situation, rather, and identify with that. Okay, so I just want to say that right out of the gate. I'm not some sort of pedophilia sympathizer here, but the video was about why it's taking so long to see justice for Harry Goularte, whereas Cain Velasquez already open and shut. They've already thrown the book at him, already sentenced him, he's already jailed, all the rest of it. And people are looking at this like, you know, California just, you know, doesn't mind pedophiles. Oh, pedophiles are good, but don't be a law-abiding citizen who, loses your shit when you find out that somebody molested your young son. Don't do that. And people are just looking at it in that sort of way. But this video here is more about, listen, that is more a detail that is relevant to Harry Goularte's case, right? Not Cain Velasquez, because Cain Velasquez has already been sentenced. He's already been charged. He's already been convicted. He's already been sentenced. And that sentence would not have changed for him whether he found out from this person or found out from that person or found out from another family member or from a co-worker there who maybe saw it happen or whatever the case is. That is a detail that has way more to do with Harry Goularte's final outcome, okay? Not Cain Velasquez, because Cain Velasquez did what he did regardless of how he found out that his son was supposedly being molested. He still took the law in his own hands. Not cool. I mean, we can understand it. We all love our children. We all want to protect our children. And when you feel like the justice system is potentially failing you, you can understand the guy's point of view. But, he made a mistake. He wasn't patient. The justice system is getting there. They're trying to do their thing, right? But, I thought to myself when the person said that, you didn't do a very good job of explaining, why Cain did what he did and what happened when Cain did what he did. Like, by example, how did he find out about the allegations? Well, I don't know how he found out about the allegations. And to be honest, it doesn't really matter. Because however he found out about them, he still did what he did and still would have been charged the way he was charged, regardless of how he found out about them, okay? The only real question there was surrounding that whole investigation is, was he sane when he did it, or did he just kind of lose his shit as a father who cares about his son, who had no previous criminal history, who felt like the justice system was failing him, right? And I don't think Cain and his family had a real understanding of the fact that because they were letting this man out of jail didn't necessarily mean he had gotten by with what he'd been accused of doing, okay? And I think, I don't know if that's technically what they thought. It could have just been that they knew he was going to have a court date in the future, but they didn't agree that he should have been able to get out on bail, given the nature of the charges, especially considering that he could have possibly harmed another child after that, which you can certainly understand that frame of thinking. But outside of that, it was pretty open and shut what happened with Cain, what he did, and why he did it, right? So, hence the reason that the case has gone by quicker, hence the reason that he had his court date quicker, hence the reason that he's already been sentenced quicker, hence the reason that he's already in jail serving what's remaining of his 5-year prison sentence, right? And, I'm kind of getting tired of the narrative online, man. Like, people just... Because the problem is there's so many uninformed people out there, and, I guess I'm part of them, but there's so many uninformed people out there that help to perpetuate this narrative that the California justice system is just horrible. Now listen, there's no justice system in this whole country that is perfect. The justice system is made up of who? People. And people aren't perfect. Let's just say it for what it is. People are not perfect. So the system that is made up of people is not going to be perfect either. Okay? So I'm not saying that the California justice system doesn't have some improving to do, but people are painting this narrative that, like, they don't give a shit about some guy who supposedly molested a bunch of kids. They've got a problem with Cain Velasquez. and what he did, trying to protect his son, or get justice for his son, right? And I just, it's a played out narrative, guys, and I see, and the video that I'm discussing where the weasel was talking, that he actually said the words, Cain Velasquez got 5 years in prison, all while the man who is accused of molesting his son is still walking around free. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be walking around free indefinitely. And the reason he's still free, and the reason he hasn't had his day in court yet, is because it takes a lot longer to get a case together to make sure that the case is strong enough where they were not only able to prosecute but convict this man. They want to make sure that if he is in fact a diddler, a pedophile, that he doesn't walk free. And that takes time. It takes time and a collective effort from a lot of different government agencies to bolster this case and to build up this case and to make sure that the guy is not going to get off with some sort of formality or legality when someone doesn't dot an I or cross a T. They're trying to make sure of that. And it takes longer in this particular situation than it did with Cain Velasquez. And that's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. And this narrative is wrong. This narrative that they don't care about children and that a guy molests children and all the rest of it. But they're just after Cain because he did what he did. And so, listen, guys, let's get real. Cain Velasquez put a lot of people in potential danger when he did what he did. Now, if the guy who's accused of molesting his son actually did that, and he's also done that to other children, then obviously, 1000%, he needs to be thrown under the jail. He needs to serve his time. He needs to, get sued, have felony charges, have trouble getting a job for the rest of his life, never be able to work with children again. All of those things that come with being accused and convicted of something like that. He needs to get that. Obviously. But they're just not there yet. They're trying to get there, but they're not there yet. And there's a lot more layers to his case and making sure that he doesn't walk and make sure that he gets convicted than there was making sure that Cain Velasquez, one man who did one thing one afternoon. The series of events is very well noted, and Cain Velasquez never denied any of it. Yeah, I chased him through the street. Yeah, I had a .40 caliber weapon. Yeah, I shot into the vehicle. Yeah, it was close to a school with teachers and children. I didn't know that, but yeah, it was stupid. Yeah, I was upset. From what I know, what my family knows, this guy molested my child, and I see him walking around free out on the street. Yeah, I did what I did. So it's one of those things where they didn't have to do a whole lot of investigating. They didn't. The prosecution didn't have to do a whole lot to go ahead and put the nail in the coffin for Cain. Whereas Harry Goularte is denying the charges and saying he's not guilty of it, right? So they need to make sure that they prove that this guy's guilty. And it's not just a matter of getting a bunch of 3, 4, 5-year-old children together and interviewing them. Children have 2,000-3,000 words in their language sometimes. It can be up to 10,000 or something like that. And that sounds like a lot of words, but it's not. It's not. And they have no understanding of sexuality. They have no understanding of consequences. Very, very rudimentary cognitive thought at 3, 4, 5 years old. And you have to approach talking to children about something, especially this serious, in a particular way. You have to handle it with, no pun intended, kid gloves. So this is something, and it doesn't just involve Cain's child. There likely is probably other families and other children possibly involved in this case at this point. So it's just not something that happens overnight. And that's why it's taking so long. You know, and here the public and social media and everybody else is painting this narrative that this guy's just getting off while Cain Velasquez is already serving jail time. You know, it's just a timing thing. You know, this is just going to take longer for this guy for the prosecution to get their case together. You know, and I just want people to understand that. That's all I was trying to say. They're two different things. You're trying to compare apples to oranges. And they're not the same. Apples are apples, oranges are oranges. These cases are two different cases. That's the reason one has already closed and the other is still open. You know, it's not because the justice system somehow disagrees with Cain Velasquez, but it's okay to be a diddler. Come on, man. I gotta go. You guys have a good day. Subscribe to the channel if you would, like the video, and comment down below, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.